Mesela, you obviously represent the OEMs and suppliers to the rail sector, and you must be quite thrilled with the recent announcement from the President and SA's Economic Recovery Plan.
Good afternoon, Philippa. Yes, representing the RRA at the moment is quite exciting times. For the first time in a long, long time that government is speaking the language that private sector is speaking. The National Rail Policy, as we have it in the draft white paper, we know that it intends to place rail on a sound footing to collaborate and compete against other transport modes, to position and to serve the national land transport and be the backbone by 2050. And the cleaning up and dusting up of the current draft policies is a fantastic way to put the rail back on the map, to be an enabler of the real economic growth that we are looking for as a country, as a region, and as a continent.
So open access, we've heard some interesting things. So we've got unions getting a little confused between open access and privatization, thinking that rail is PRASA and getting confused. Do you want to set the record straight for them?
It's not only the unions. I think the South African public in general, and I think the media also, of the reported corruption that has taken place at PRASA, it has sort of somehow created an impression that the rail industry is PRASA and PRASA is the rail industry. And PRASA is one of many operators, and we also need to educate that there's the hard infrastructure, which is the rail track, the permanent way, that is mostly owned by government. So there's, at least as far as I know, there are no plans for government to privatize the core network. Where private sector comes in and plays is on the operator side, particularly on the freight side. Now, privatizing, it's not a dirty way. The privatizing is simply saying that we want to partner with government. So we're talking about not complete privatizing, but public-private partnerships with government. Government cannot integrate the continent. Government cannot build the economy on its own, but they need to have an active participation from private sector. It's partnerships that we're talking about. It's not privatization that we're talking about.
And I think we need to be clear here that the lines that they're talking about in terms of passenger rail, that looked very much like concessions and build, operate, transfer. It also looked really at new corridors, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And then also on the Transnet side, definitely not privatization, but the open access to operate on the core network of Transnet to kind of pick up some of the slack. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, this will really add impetus to the push for, in terms of the strategy from road to rail.
It's basically supporting the bigger vision of moving freight from road to rail. And we've already banded around stats that the grain market has been traditionally over 80% on rail. Let's bring that back on. But a private sector could participate in that space. We are talking about, we have a generally an industry that is still quite monopolistic, a natural monopoly. But in order for us to turn around the economy, to revitalize the sector, to transform the sector, we need to have an active participation of South Africans, normal South Africans, private sector South Africans, Black women-owned companies to participate in this sector. So private sector is not white monopoly capital. Private sector is South African companies that want to have a greater participation in the economy of this country. The government says they want to eradicate poverty. We want to be partners with government to eradicate poverty. We want to have a reduction of the word, using of the word, the poor of the poor. The poor of the poor that are often referred to do not want to remain poor. Let's give a South African men, South African women their dignity back. By partnering with government, we'll be able to create more employment, bring in investment, more employment. Then we develop as a country which have an influence on the entire continent. We need to revitalize the manufacturing sector in this country to make sure that as we integrate the continent, continent, we are able to increase intra-Africa trade by at least 5% in the next few months. From the 16%, but there are a number of policies that will need to be pushed a little bit quicker by government to ensure that we achieve the recovery and reconstruction plan that the president has on the table. We know that the president does not have to start from zero when it comes to the investment forum. We already have a commitment on the table from one company, and if we have a firm commitment from government to make sure that they enact the laws that they need to enact, there's more investment coming in the country. So all we're saying is that, Mr. President, vula magate.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much, Mesela, for your time.
Thank you, Philippa.